Welcome to this rundown of some of my favorite and most used electric bass instrument plugins. I'm going to focus on plugins that try to emulate a realistic bass sound and that give you quite a large amount of control over shaping the sound, but not too wide so that it stays like in the realm of electric bass. For example, an honorable mention would be the Monster Bass plugin, which is pretty good, but it doesn't really focus on what I'm looking for. It offers various different amounts of bass, but the control over a single patch is a bit limited. Still, it does sound quite good, so let's have a quick listen to that one. Alright, so what I'm personally looking for in a bass plugin can be pretty well illustrated with the MODO Bass. This is a free version of IK Multimedia's MODO Bass, and it gives you more control over the sound than you could ever imagine. Some things that I personally find handy and that I want to see in bass plugins is intelligent voicings. This means that if I play notes that are close together, it behaves monophonic, but if I play something further apart, it behaves polyphonic. If you look down here at the string illustration, it always tries to think how would a bass player actually play this. With articulation control, I mean, can you change between, for example, finger and pick? Slap is only in the Pro version, and then you have also some control over muting, which is something I like to see. Then we come to the amp DI control. In this plugin, you have a whole section dedicated to electronics and studio, like you can choose a different amp. I like additional sound shaping options. In this plugin, for example, an additional thing to me would be you can change the string wound type, round wound, flat wound, which again changes the sound quite subtly but also usefully. The age of the strings. That's what I mean with additional sound shaping options. Another thing important to me is that it's velocity sensitive, maybe multi-sampled. Most of the plugins on here are multi-sampled or velocity sensitive. And then an additional thing to look at that personally I don't get a lot of use out of is if there's any patterns that these plugins can provide us with. For example, some have this, and in this one you can even drag this out and like get the MIDI file from it. That's also useful to many people, I suspect. Personally, I don't really use this feature. So that's what I enjoy seeing from a bass plugin. Let's compare this to how a stock bass might sound. Studio One comes with a surprisingly good sounding stock bass sound. It's a library for Presence XT. My favorite one is the vintage bass, and here again we can see it has some different articulations. You can choose between fingered and picked and how muted the thing is. So to me this is passing the test on articulation control, but for example this one doesn't have intelligent voicings. This is only either polyphonic or monophonic. Sounds pretty nice, I think. You don't get any amp DI control, but you get some additional sound shaping options with the effects, a modulation section. It is velocity sensitive. And with the key switches, you can change from articulation to articulation. Now let's look at one of the most recommended freebies, the Ample P Bass Lite. This one is getting a bit old, but it still sounds good. This one also has intelligent voicings. I haven't seen any articulation control or DI amp control though. You get some limited sound shaping options. Now we come to the first paid bass plugin. I actually bought this one. This one is specifically focused actually on playing phrases and patterns, but personally I pretty much always use it playing individual notes. This one also has the intelligent voicings. Not really any articulation control besides this damping feature. You get some nice amp DI control though, and also a lot of additional sound shaping options with these finisher patches. Another paid one I'm going to look at is WEDGE Force Keemun, next to MODO Bass, another synthesis-based plugin. This one doesn't give you as many options, no amp control, no intelligent voicings, a bit limited. It doesn't really sound that great to me, honestly. So $200 I think is a very steep price for this one. Another freebie would be the bass guitar library for Spitfire Labs. This one has 4 different sample sets you can choose, so it gives you a bit of control over the sound generally. I mean, the Labs sound controls are a bit limited, which is the idea, I guess. This one can sound very good in some specific situations, but generally speaking, it's not very versatile, I think. And as with all Labs instruments, I think it could be a bit more deeply sampled, so have more velocity layers. Another freebie is Crux from SINE by Orchestral Tools. This one actually comes with 4 different bass models, and my favorite is a J bass. You get nice control over different articulations, fingered and muted and picked. But other than that, you don't really get any options to control or shape the sound, but it's quite nicely multi-sampled. Wasn't sure if I should include this one, but it's an interesting comparison nevertheless. Another synthesis-based one. This is a device from MSoundFactory trying to emulate an electric bass. You get quite a lot of options to shape the sound, but honestly you don't really get any way of really making it sound like an actual bass. Like if you compare this to MODO Bass, they are worlds apart. I tried many different settings. Let's just listen to how this one sounds. Yeah, now coming on to native instruments, Kontakt stuff. This one has intelligent voicings, and you can control the amp, speaker. I didn't see that you have that deep control over the articulations. And the last one would be Session Bassist Prime Bass. I was a bit struggling to get like neutral, laid-back type sounding basses out of this one. It gives you a lot of control over the sound shaping options. It's also nicely multi-sampled. But this one is only polyphonic or monophonic, doesn't have intelligent voicings. I think all of these basses are useful in some applications, but the ones I use most are definitely the MODO Bass. I also use the UJAM Virtual Bassist often, dandy. I'm considering on using the MSoundFactory Crux in some situations. I think it sounds quite nice. And the stock one I think is also surprisingly good, and I often go back to the stock one. Also, I've been working with the Rickenbacker in some songs at the moment. This one is good for a bit more distorted sounds, I think. And I would want to use the prime bass a bit more often, but I just never can really find the application. Alright, which bass plugins do you use most often? Do you mainly use free ones or paid ones? Let me know in the comments. Would love if you subscribed if you enjoyed this video. That's it.